Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your mowers will practically build themselves. Hello folks, it's Mad Dog Merv. Today, Harold and I, we made a stop in at the office. We're getting a little bit of work done. We will be in the doghouse a little bit later today. But what I wanted to talk to you about is this really fun tank that I have in the game world of tanks. It's the GW Tiger. It's a Tier 9 artillery tank. It's a lot of fun. And it's actually, it just has this incredibly slow reload, but if it hits something, it's just obliterated, which is pretty cool. But it's not as fun to play with on World of Tanks as it was to actually build. And we'll get into the build here in just a minute and go over some of the things that I did with it. And, stick with us. Check out the GW Tiger from World of Tanks.
So this tank is known as the Geschützenwagen Tiger. It was a German self-propelled gun during World War II that never saw service. The decision to build this heavy artillery based on the chassis of the Tiger II came in 1942. There was a prototype that was tested by the end of the war, and we'll look at that chassis here in just a minute. The project called for designing this self-propelled gun carriage for the 170mm Kanui 72 gun, and also the 210mm Moser 18-1 howitzer. Fortunately, Trumpeter makes a model of each one of these in 1/35 scale, and here is their 210mm version. This particular kit, and this is not the one that we're using, although they're pretty much the same, just a different gun. The one we will be using is this particular one here, that is comes with the 170mm gun. And it's not a bad kit. The like any Trumpeter King Tiger kit that you might have out there, it's pretty straightforward and not bad build at all. I actually really enjoy building one of these. I've built one of these and they're pretty quick and easy build. But this particular one that we're going to look at today, I got in this collection of tanks from a friend of mine. He was a great builder. His name was Alan Kinney, and he built a lot of armor that he just never did paint. For whatever reason, he liked to build and build and build, but not paint. Well, I'm not much of a builder, but I love to paint. And you can see kind of here in the middle of the photograph, here's a close-up of it, what I got. I got this chassis that had been blanked off. There was no gun in it. And I thought, what on earth am I going to do with this? And, well, I'll tell you in just a minute what exactly I did with it. I know what he was going to do with it, and I thought I'd go ahead and continue on the theme that he was going to use. But eventually, well, I made a different decision. So here's what I decided to do with it. I made it into a ammo carrier for the for the GW Tiger. Yeah, you got it, folks. I modified, put this big door on the back that made pretend that there was a little crane in there, and you could crane out these big old shells. In all reality, they probably would have used like a Mark IV chassis or even a Panther chassis for something like that. But I thought, what the heck, this would be fun, kind of a what if. I mean, they never built all of this stuff anyway. And I decided to put this kind of, I call it the roadmap camouflage. It's something I got out of one of my Panther books, something that apparently was on a Panther at one point in time in World War II. For the colors, I just used a Dunkelgelb from, I believe this one was just Tester's Model Master, and then I used their Signal Brown for the roads, as I call them, and I can't remember which green it was, but I think it was the 1943 Panzergrün that I used for the little dots all over this thing. Here it is, kind of in a zephyr tone type picture, and yeah, I could see that in World War II. But really, what good was an ammo carrier going to do me without something to to shoot? I'm a big gun kind of guy. And so I decided to take it apart and rebuild it and put that, put a 170 gun in it. Unfortunately, I didn't have the 170 gun, and I was too cheap to go out and buy the Trumpeter version of the gun that they have. And I thought, you know what, I am just going to build and modify my own. Here's a picture of the chassis. This is compliments of the Imperial War Museum. It's one of their pictures of the chassis of that particular vehicle that was taken after the war. So yes, they did have one test vehicle that they were able to get prepared, didn't put a gun in it before the end of the war. And here are some actual pictures from that time period once it was captured. And you can see this thing was just a huge cavern, and the gun would have been right in the middle there. And this thing is huge, massive vehicle. I just can't even imagine this thing running around the battlefield. But anyway, the Germans did get that far built on it. And here is, I believe this is the 170 gun in a mock-up of that particular turret or of that particular chassis. You can see this is a plywood mock-up that they were testing to see if everything would fit just right. So yeah, kind of neat pictures from back in that particular time frame. So I made the decision that I was going to build my own gun for this. I mean, it's my model and it's make-believe anyway, so what the heck. I decided to go ahead and try and do a 170, my version of the 170 millimeter gun. And for the breech area, I used a Dragon 1/35th scale GW Tiger. This is the gun that comes in the GW Tiger. I didn't need it sitting inside of a covered up hull, so I built a gun out of it. And you can see I used a bunch of just spare parts and whatnot, and kind of made my version of what this gun would look like. The gun platform there, you got the guys sitting in the back, and some, I don't know where I got these shells, but I figured they looked pretty good, and I'd make them into a couple of loads of ammo. Got the guys sitting back here resting in their winter gear, having a cup of coffee, just taking a quick break. Decided in my diorama that I was putting together here, I would have these two figures. I believe they come from the Winter 88 millimeter flat gun Tamiya kit. I'm not very good with figures, you can tell the faces aren't great. But anyway, I decided to put them outside here, like they were on break, just taking a rest. But the one nemesis they always had was Allied aircraft, so they're up looking, here's something they look up. So in the game world of tanks, you have this big, huge, massive counterweight at the back. It's a foot that they would lower, and then you raise this gun and shoot it as an artillery piece. Well, I didn't want an artillery piece. Oh no, I'm not into artillery. I am into sniping, and so I wanted a tank destroyer version, and so that's how I built mine, is to portray a tank destroyer. You can see that the camo that I had done on the carrier is still here and present. I had just kind of ripped off the top and taken that back off, painted the interior in kind of a rusty brown color, an primer oxide, if you will. Put a few details in there and accoutrements for the crew, and voila, here is how it turned out. And I kind of like it. I put this travel lock on the gun, figured something that big flopping around, you really did need a travel lock, so I built a custom travel lock for it. And whether this thing would have been practical or not, who knows. But I think it just really looks cool as my tank destroyer version, the 170 millimeter gun. Tell you what, if this thing would have hit a Pershing, whoo, it would have gone off like Christmas. Winter time. And here's a better look at the gun. I mean, yeah, it's not correct for the 170, but I'll tell you what, it looks like a gun, so I'm good with it, and I'll keep it that way. So anyway, yes, it does not have the big stabilizer foot I didn't have one. I didn't build one. I figured, nah, this is a tank destroyer. I'm not going to use one. So it's my model, and well, this is how it wound up. Again, this kit has individual track links, plastic track links, and I don't have a problem with them at all. I really quite enjoyed it. It's just like any King Tiger kit, except for, well, it's a little bit longer chassis, a couple more wheels, a little bit more on the tread, and good, nice build. If you want to build something like this, I'm sure somebody out there can build a tank destroyer version that's even far better than this. Oh, hey, there you go, shooting at something.